Hey, it's Kithman, and as the thumbnail says, this is sort of a mission review for Star Trek Online. Now, Star Trek Online has missions that are grouped into episodes. So, for example, this one has got a number of episodes, most of which have the option to replay. Now, in terms of missions, I'll say there's three general types of mission. There's the go from A to B, pretty much. They don't really tend to give you anything other than just a little bit of experience, and that's what this one was, which is why it can't be replayed. Then you got missions that are in space, missions that are on the ground. You also get missions that have a bit of both, but that's the basic types. Within that, you've got a few missions where things are a bit different. And by things being a bit different, what I actually mean is either you are flying your normal ship but it's disguised, or you're running around with your normal gear but you're disguised, which basically means you've got your normal abilities, but you're going to be somewhere that your normal character, your normal ship couldn't be. Say, wandering around the base of somewhere that you're fighting at the time. The episode is fighting a ongoing conflict with. And there are also missions where you not disguised as someone else, or your ship isn't disguised as a different ship, but you're actually in a different ship, or you are someone else, or someone's else. There are some missions where you play a number of different people, but the vast majority you're obviously playing your main character. As I say, there's all these episodes, and the game basically leads you through. So when you finish one episode and you collect the reward, probably 30 seconds or so later, you'll get another message pop up, either from the same person that invited you on the previous mission, or from a new person basically inviting you to start the next mission. And at the end of an episode, you'll get effectively an invite to the start of the next episode. And you get things that happen in one mission or one episode that then have an influence on later episodes. It's not a case of you can make a choice which has an outcome, but it's just a case of things that happen. You then see further consequences further on. After all, if your actual decisions had an effect, it would. You couldn't really work in a multiplayer environment, could it? It wouldn't make sense. But that's how you find all these missions. Now, what do I think of them? Well, I've now actually gone through all of these episodes, and in general, they're good. They're, sort of a lot of fun. They have enough links and Easter eggs to the Star Trek movies and TV series to what's the best way of putting this? Entertain, interest the Star Trek fans, but at the same time, it doesn't absolutely stuff every single possible reference and the like into it, such that someone who isn't familiar with the whole mythos gets just overwhelmed. So they've managed to do a reasonably good job of striking the balance, and that's helped by a lot of the time you come across in the various missions characters that were in the TV series, and they're actually voiced by the same people a lot of the time, not all the time. Sometimes it's a case of those characters are voiced by, well, a good example, it's not really a spoiler this, Montgomery Scotty from the original Star Trek, also appeared briefly in a Next Generation episode. Well, he's a character you come across, and he's actually being voiced by his son, because he, unfortunately, the actor that played him passed away, as you probably know. Likewise, some other actors, Patrick Stewart, Avery Brooks, so Jean-Luc Picard, Benjamin Sisko, you hear parts from them, but they're just reused audio. Not necessarily because they didn't want to. Apparently they've tried on a couple of occasions to arrange things with Patrick Stewart, but it's just been scheduling issues rather than anything else that stopped it happening. But yeah, that all helps the general immersion, and that's nice. The other voice acting is of a similar level, and it's consistent. You know, you're not suddenly hearing totally different voices for very similar characters, which is good again. What I would say about the stories is you need to pay attention. You can't just ignore all the cutscenes and the sort of the text that comes up. Not if you want to actually know what's going on. Sometimes you can get totally confused in a mission because you need to actually do something, and because if you weren't paying attention, you can spend a long time blowing up enemy ships, for example, that are just constantly respawning because you're not actually doing X that you were specifically told you had to do, which can get a bit annoying if you miss the information. So yeah, you do need to pay attention, and also obviously you'll get a lot more out of it. You know, it's an interesting story. Yeah, they've got a reasonably interesting story there, and if you just skip it all, it's pointless. Why are you here? You know, that is part of the entertainment with a game like this, is enjoying the story. But anyway, with regards to enjoying or not enjoying the story, what other things do I have to add? Well, what I will say is there are some missions that, well, frankly, they're not fun. Probably the primary example is the Delta Quadrant episodes. You got a number of missions here that can't be replayed, and most of them say patrol trouble spots in the Delta Quadrant. And what those missions actually involve is, if we look at the galaxy map, this is the Delta Quadrant, big long thin thing. It involves flying to planets. Now, there are a number of planets that have patrol missions, which basically mean you fly to the planet and you get a standalone mission that might involve fighting, might involve talking, might involve a bit of both, might involve just sort of flying around and solving a puzzle, whatever. But those are patrol missions. Now, in the Delta Quadrant, they've got a number of these patrol missions. In the Delta Quadrant episode, you've got a number of these patrol missions. So yeah, here's one there. Or a number of missions that say patrol trouble spots, and literally what those involve, it means flying to a given planet, doing its specific mission, then flying to another planet in the same system, doing its specific mission for maybe 2 or 3 planets, and there could be a planet up here and a planet down there. with no option to transwarp between them, so no fast travel between them. You just got to slowly fly through space to get to them. And those are probably the worst missions in the episode. Not because the actual individual patrol bits are bad, but the fact you just got to fly between them in a slow way. By contrast, there's a similar sort of bit of flying around in, I think it's in the Klingon Civil War arc, but you're able to transwarp between them. It's either, I'm not sure, it's either Julia's Discovery or Klingon Civil War, I can't remember exactly which, but you are able to transwarp between the different systems you've got to go and do your patrols in. So straight away, you've got still the interesting bit of the mission without the boring slog of just your ship flying from A to B, and that's it. So that was far better done for the same type of thing. But yeah, as I said, the missions as a whole, they're enjoyable. I like them. Probably, I think my favourite mission, it's in the Gamma Quadrant episode, and it's Quark's Lucky 7. Won't give you any spoilers beyond the blurb that's on screen, but yeah, it's fun. It's fun, and what's the best way of putting it? It's a bit like, imagine it's a bit like one of those episodes on a TV series where things were, it's not concentrating on the main characters, shall we say. And it's a fun change of pace. Now, as I mentioned, I've already done all the missions, all the episodes rather, on the main arc. Now, that doesn't mean I'm finished with the game. For a start, the tutorial missions are different for each of the characters. So Romulan is different to 2409 Federation, is different to original series Federation, and so on. So there's that part of it that has some differences. In addition, there are, other than the tutorial, there are other missions that are on there. The first few missions for each arc may well be different. So, for example, with a Romulan character, there's an episode called Wasteland, which basically involves running around, where is it? A planet up there, I think it is, called Nimbus. Now that's on the Romulan arc. You can actually, I believe, I've not done this myself yet, if you go to that planet you can actually play the episodes of that, play the missions of that episode yourself, with any character, but it's not part of their main arc. Likewise, there were the patrol missions that I've mentioned already. You fly to a planet, you get the option to patrol it, and you can find different little mini missions that way. There are also the battle zones. So there's, for example, the Badlands sector, the Dyson Sphere. There's a number of space and ground battle zones where you can go to it, and there are both little missions in there, plus the opportunity to do fights and the like with enemies for particular goals, where also you can complete these mini missions, and when you complete it you then have the option, you then have bigger fights, sort of a end the the threat for a period of time type thing. And you've also got things like the task force operations, where you can just choose to join them. Either you form your own team and join them, or you just join random people who've also signed up for the same mission, or you can even just sign up for the random task force operation, which gets you a bit of a bonus over doing one of your choice, but you have no control over which one you're doing. And yeah, there's still a fair amount to do here in the game. And of course it's an MMO that they are adding to regularly. For example, in the Terran Gambit, Eye of the Storm, this was only added a couple of weeks ago. So that's an example of that. And you get people doing random things like that. This has just happened. Luckily it's not the dance party one, so I haven't started dancing. That is annoying, trust me, when you're trying to do other things. But anyway, that's a brief sort of overview of missions. If you've got any questions or comments, feel free to stick them below. But I think I'll leave it at that, and hopefully you find this useful. Catch you later.